Hey, good Wednesday morning. It's October 23rd here, just before 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Michael Clark with BAM Weather, and we're going to talk about the latest long-range forecast today and a very difficult, tricky November forecast, but some signals hinting towards a cool ENSO neutral for winter, which, in our research indicates that, we may have a pattern worth watching coming into the winter, especially early season for colder and snowier prospects across much of the country, and a stormy pattern for sure here, especially in the next couple weeks. May calm down a little bit and then pick back up into December. We're going to talk about it right now. The first thing to note is how we've been in the short term continued dry. All right, we've had some 7-day rainfall analysis here. Now, I do want to point out portions of New Mexico, northeastern New Mexico, southern Colorado received a record single-day rainfall total of over 5 inches. Significant flooding went on down there. It broke a single-day record dating back to 1901. So just a huge swath of rain worked in there to the desert southwest. So very, very interesting nonetheless. And when you look at the future rainfall forecast here from the Clarity Platform product, does show some rain up into the Pacific Northwest. A system that'll work through here across the central portion of the country, albeit we have some concerns it could be a little bit further west, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. And check it out. Look at the snow forecast here from Clarity. Isn't that neat to see in the higher elevations out here out west? Snow showing up. Winter is pretty close to being here, all right? So this is a look at October to date precipitation ranks by climate district. 132 is the driest ever. 132 years of observations dating back to 1893. And so when you look at this, guys, you can just see how dry it's been. Here's a look at, I kind of want to draw the epicenter here of where the driest weather has been and potentially ranking, again, probably the driest October ever. In fact, we don't get any rain here in Indy. It'll be the driest in 152 years. You can see it's in terms of record keeping that began in these climate districts, you're looking at really the driest stretch ever here right now. It's never been drier, right? It's the way that you got to put that. You look at temperatures, it's never been hotter in places in the west here, the desert southwest, California, it's Nevada. I mean, just look at this. This is how warm it's been. And then you go east and you've had some cooler weather. Maybe top third cooler October here into the east. But just an extreme month in both temperatures and precipitation in the Midwest and the West. And so we're trying to look at things that are going to break this pattern, right? What's going to happen? Well, rainfall forecast the next 7 days. And you can note here we've got the black circle. It says we've got a risk of a heavier band on the 29th, shifting west a bit. Regardless, there could be some rain in here. That could be nice, need some rain. But still not a lot of rain in the forecast over the next 7 days for many locations that need it. It's overall not looking too great. Now, week 2 forecast, EPS, the European model, continues to note a more of an active look should evolve as a ridge develops east. A trough is still holding off back to the west and southwest. You get that battle zone set up in there. For about 7 to 10 days, the pattern should become more active. It should offer up more chances of rain here over week 2, the week 2 time frame. My concern is this does not stick around very long. It's all because of an MJO pulse that is going through the equatorial Pacific Ocean. But again, I think once we get out of the wet phases into phase 2, phase 3, it turns dry again. So that is something we're going to continue to monitor, but nonetheless, hopefully some rains at least in the week 2 period. Temperatures the next 7 days, extraordinarily warm, very much above normal, especially in the deep south. Cooler to the northwest, somewhat normal temperatures there into the east. Look at the week 2 setup. You can see the warmth transitioning east on the European, the cold weather trying to get in there to the western half of the country. So a change. That's a pattern flip, by the way, because it's been cool east, warm west. So the pattern is shaking up. It's changing. It's evolving a little bit. And we've got indications of high probability week 2 above normal temperature forecast in the east and higher probability temperature forecast to be below normal in the west. And so we're seeing a change in the pattern, right? So we just need to kind of talk about this. This is one thing that has my attention right now, and this is the zonal wind forecast, which this kind of helps us tell us what the direction of the trade winds are, if you will, across the equator, across where we monitor in the central portion of the globe from 15 north to 15 south, what direction are those winds? Are they coming from the east or are they coming from the west? Note here for a time, in this particular region, they've been coming from the east. They've been blowing easterly. That's been promoting a trough in the Pacific Northwest, keeping heights lower and keeping it cooler and wetter, right? We see a big change, a big easterly or a westerly wind burst emerging here into the end of October and the start of November. Those are westerly winds. This signal here indicates more of a positive P&A pattern trying to develop, a ridge in the North Pacific, some change upcoming in the overall pattern. And it's also really a kind of a gut punch to the idea of a La Nina going into winter. You don't want a westerly wind burst if you're trying to get a La Nina. So indications are right now, I think the attempt of going into a La Nina this winter is pretty much a failed attempt at this point. And I think, if anything, we need to look at the potential at a cool ENSO neutral winter, which kind of gives us a little bit of some stuff to go off of here in the extended forecast predictions. All right, this is a look at the GFS and the European weeklies. And I want to point your attention to a lot of these really extreme negative members developing in the EPO, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. That's the North Pacific Ridge. All right, note the control member as well, starting to just really start to take this negative with a lot of ensemble support and even the mean trying to do so. The Europeans doing the same thing with some really extreme negative members. All right, and overall a trend downwards here on the mean as well from where it started, starting a very positive EPO on both data sets. The individual ensemble members do a great job at sniffing out bigger pattern changes. And we're kind of seeing that right now. We're kind of seeing that evolve. You can see that here on the ECMWF weekly on the North Atlantic Oscillation. We're seeing a little bit of a trend towards a negative NAO. And check out the P&A as well. All right, you can see here a more trend towards positive. Look at the control and some of these members going strongly positive here towards mid to the end of November. So we think a pattern shift is coming. Here's the current pattern right now. Big trough over Alaska and the North Pacific. Okay, ridge out to the east. We start to see the pattern move and shake. The ridge moves northward. Okay, the trough dissipates in the North Pacific, and it's replaced with some warmer heights here, some higher heights, and maybe some higher latitude blocking as we get later into the month. You go all the way out here to the end of time, right to about the end of November to start December. You've got blocking setting up. You've got a negative NAO, a negative EPO, and a potential trough evolving here into the east. So the pattern is certainly moving, and a lot of it's due to we think the MJO and the neutral ENSO, the behaviors going on. There's kind of a couple things happening right now. The first thing is the MJO. We're going to go through a full high amplitude 6, 7, 8, 1, and 2. And the indications are that the modeling wants to die out in phase 2 sometime around the 10th of November. Phase 2 looks like this, which is going to indicate some more ridging up and through here and a trough down to the east. Might keep the southern tier in the southwest wet, come back to being drier here. So cooler east and drier yet again. The interesting thing here with neutral ENSOs, November neutral ENSOs since 1990, you've got 97, 02, 13, 14, and 17. They're cold. Okay. Now, we do believe the month starts very warm in the east. In fact, really warm in the east, really cool in the west. The opposite of this image here. And we believe it starts active. But note the ENSO neutral analogs indicate a dry and cooler look, similar to the MJO analogs. All right. The thought process is we're going to have to be dealing with a major pattern transition here mid-November, the 10th through the 15th or so, give or take, that's really going to make the overall November outlook very challenging to nail down, in my opinion. This was the updated week 3 and 4 forecast from yesterday. So this is through the 18th. I think the pattern can start changing around the 15th, give or take a day on the front or the back end. So let's call it the 12th through the 16th, right, where we can start to see a pattern transition take place. And that's the difficult part. We're much above in the east. We're below in the west. We're below on HDDs. So the month is going to start warm. There's no question about it. It's also going to start active, we think. Okay? There will be precipitation chances. There will be a risk for some tropical systems down there in the first couple weeks of November. But then we think we're dealing with that mid-November pattern flip. I put this map out on Monday. And that's where I think the ridging starts to establish more in the Northwest and the Atlantic. I'm sorry, in the Pacific, and could potentially indicate a cooler shift into the east. There's a lot of indications trying to go to that right now. There's something I want to show you here. I believe I had it pulled up here, and I'm not sure where I put it. I want to go to we'll just go to Tropical Tidbits here, courtesy of Levi Cohen, who puts out these great graphics. And I just want to show you the North Pacific in general. And look at where we're at right now. Really strong area of high pressure, ridge up here in the North Pacific. Watch the North Pacific pattern evolve. Watch the low spin up in the Kamchatka Peninsula due to the convection over 150, the MJO pulse. Watch what happens. Put in a big area of low pressure here starting by about day 7, day 8. And what happens is we replace the high there with the low. And eventually that's going to start to, what this will do is that will start to pump up the heights here east, okay, in the Pacific Northwest. All right, and lead to this, I think, this P&A pattern and a big mid-November cold front. I think we need to look for right around the 15th, mid-November, okay, a big cold front coming through. Big storm system, big blast of cold air, and a change to the pattern. That's the idea. And that's why the forecast overall for the month of November is so tricky. And I made a big change to it today. I made a huge change to the November outlook because this pattern here probably is gone by the 12th or so. This was the original November outlook, 530 HDDs, much above normal to the east. I've increased it to 560 HDDs, and I've left equal chances for the Northwest and the East because they start cool and warm, and then they flip and end warm and cool. So putting that on a map and averaging it out over a 30-day period is incredibly difficult to do. So what I'm trying to illustrate is the pattern flip, and I think it's the jump start or the start to the winter pattern, especially as we get into December. All right, because I want to show you something else. I had another map here that I wanted to pull up for you, and it's the winter idea. Okay, here it is. This is the idea for ENSO neutral winter. Go to November to February, and it's just a cooler winter, and there's an active storm track in here. All right, that storm track, if you were to look at this in these particular set of analogs, is about like this. Okay, and so you get big snows, probably right through here. You get more snow than you would normally get in a situation like this, and you can see just how we're divided with the cooler east and warmer west in these neutral ENSO winters. And we've isolated the best performing models to show you just that. So interesting nonetheless, something we're going to monitor. Again, I think I think the winter starts quick and early. And if you ask me, the La Nina central-based warmer risks from the La Nina coming are dissipating a little bit, and we're looking at the potential at a colder and more active winter pattern. We'll see. Obviously, all up for debate. We're predicting the future, so can always be wrong. But that's all I've got for today. Share it with a friend, and we'll talk to you soon.